why is action such as today so important?
Well, there's an ecosystem of movements and groups and, you know, types of actions for change, and bringing people together so that they can network and bond and like talk about how they're going to move forwards together is really important, I think, at this moment. I think for some people it's like it's getting more and more serious and more alarming, and so, you know, it's important to do stuff like Just Stop Oil, which is like urgent and screams about the crisis, but we also do just need a bigger movement, you know?
Yeah, and that's what I was going to touch on next, because obviously today marks a bit of a shift in how action is being conducted. Have you felt that to be necessary, and do you think that there needs to be a balance of actions?
Well, yeah, and I think, you know, we tried to say at the start of the year that we were still going to do non-violent direct action, and we have, and we do still do that kind of work, but we also need to be able to do this kind of convening thing, and I hope, anyway, let's see where it goes, but with over 200 organisations, with like massive reach in terms of their combined membership, there is a possibility that we have, first of all, a really decent conversation about deliberative democracy and different ways of doing politics, which I think is fundamentally important, and also to talk about ways that we can like go forwards together from here.
Yeah, and exactly, it's how do you go from having action like this here today to actually getting that systemic change that's necessary to address the climate crisis? Like, how do you envisage that happening?
Well, I think for me, one of the most important things about XR has always been that we've advocated for a different way of making decisions. There's a crisis in governance. You know, people who are supposed to be in charge aren't leading anything. They're not in charge of anything in a good way. You know, there's no trust with politics anymore. You know, dereliction of duty. It's impossible to deny, in my opinion. And you know, we've always had a solution, which is to do politics in a different way. And you know, quite honestly, I don't think that either party, the main parties in this country, have got anywhere near a credible approach to the scale and the magnitude of what the climate crisis really actually is, you know.
There's a large labour movement at the moment, and obviously there's been a lot of strikes going on, and even teachers and nurses are finding it hard to get the government to budge and actually get a fair pay deal. How is this going to be different?
Well, I mean, we've got a load of unions with us, right? And we've got people organising across the green climate movement, whatever you want to call it, into the trade union space. And, you know, that is where all the dots get joined up for me, you know? Like, whether you're talking about, like, racist policing, would ordinary citizens sitting around a table come up with a better approach to trying to fix policing issues for communities? Yes, I think they would. Would they come up with a way to make sure that nurses don't need food banks? Yes, they would. Would they sit around and say, let's transition the energy system because we really need to, and that means no more oil and gas, it has to stop? Like, they'd go, well, yes, that's the fact, so we have to stop doing it. So there's no doubt in my mind that the faith that I have in human beings and each other is, you know, is unwavering despite the disgrace that we see at the top of our society, if you see what I mean. So for me, it's like all of these things are connected, and you know, the cost of energy is connected to the same people who lied to you about the science, is connected to the people who are going, UK's like a cash machine for us right now, you know, whilst everyone's in spiralling poverty and debt. So
and when we've been speaking to people around the country, we were in Newcastle recently, one of the main issues that people were concerned about was climate change. So there is a will out there, and it is, as you said, how do you join those dots together? But are you optimistic for the future of this movement?
I feel like there's room to be a little bit cautiously optimistic today about like what we're doing and bringing people together, and I think there's more appetite now for people to unite across their differences, to be honest. You know, there are people here who are sort of fighting for a conversation with a with a more Tory, more conservative lean, for example.
Yeah.
There are groups that are coming out that say, like, we just think socialism is the way forward. It's fine, like, if they can coexist and everyone says, yeah, but the main thing is that we all agree that we have to find a way to address this problem, and in all honesty, we need to prepare for what's coming, but we also need to mitigate at the same time, and nobody can argue with those two facts. So the way that happens needs to be worked out pretty quickly, and it needs to be done in a grown-up fashion, you know.
If there were different people in power, do you think that the urgency to address these issues would maybe be different? Or if maybe there was a different way?
I mean, it could be, yeah. In theory, it totally could be.
Yeah.
It feels like a very long way away from our reality to try and imagine what that would look or sound like. But you know, it's not impossible. And I think one of the things that the movements do when they come together like this is that they remind the people in power that actually everyone does care. And you know, quite often at the start of the movement, people were saying, well, the problem is that politicians think the public don't care, and the public think that politicians don't care. So you've got a double, you know, it's a double problem.
Yeah.
So you know, at least I feel like that is kind of like knocked out of the. They can't deny that they know people care anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?